And let me start to share my screen because I don't think that you are seeing my screen yet. Let's see here. Share screen. Does everybody see a lovely picture of London right now? You should see it. All right, good. Well, let's go ahead and begin. I see, this is a class I think of like 40 students, and I see that there's 36 who are connected right now, and that's pretty good for the first day of classes. Hopefully we'll get all the way up to 40 or 41, however many we've got. But I'm Dr. Waite, and this is our first class of the semester for Engineering 222, Engineering Cost Analysis and Economy. And we'll begin each of our class meetings with a slide that summarizes the applicable announcements. So just kind of give you an idea of what's on the horizon and what you should be doing and what you should be knowing. So the first thing that I'd suggest that you do just to keep organized this semester is go out and buy a 3-ring binder where you can put all the materials for this course. And it doesn't need to be an expensive one. You could go to Walmart and get the 97-cent 1-inch 3-ring binder, and that's probably going to be fine. The reason why I suggest you have that binder is that I've posted the lecture notes on Blackboard, and you can print them out in any format that you prefer. I'll show you in a minute where to find those. But more importantly, we go through some in-class exercise during each of our class meetings. And this is a hands-on way for you to practice some of the concepts that we'll be learning this semester. And if you print those out in advance and you have them in this binder and you can refer back to them during the homework, then it's going to make your life so much easier. Because what I'm trying to do this semester is give you a simple idea with a demonstration during the lecture, and then you practice that simple idea in a little bit more complex and sophisticated way with the in-class exercise. And then that kind of is the stair step to the homework assignment, which is slightly more complicated. And then the exams are the culminating effect there, where you will have practiced it several times already, and so it's kind of a stair stepping. And so if you misplace those in-class exercises, then you're not going to have them to study or to work on your homework with. So it's good to be organized. There's going to be lots of papers, and I wouldn't want you to lose anything. The textbook is available now. This is what it looks like, by the way. This Engineering Economy, 8th edition. I was just checking on Amazon before our class, and it looks like Amazon has the book available for $28 if you want to rent it for the semester, and you can find it online, eBay or other places for pretty cheap too. So I'm glad that the textbook is affordable. It's not going to be too much of an imposition, but get a hold of that as soon as possible. It's really a good idea for you to review the material that we talk about on your own and read the textbook explanation, because if I explain it one way and the textbook author takes another approach to explain it, and then you kind of figure things out with the in-class exercise, it's like we're surrounding the concept, and it'll really help your retention. If you've explored around our Blackboard so far, you will have noticed that Homework 0 is available right now. And that's numbered Homework 0 because it has 0 points possible, but you have the option of earning 10 bonus points. What you do with Homework 0 is you place a Teams call to me, and we'll have a brief chat, an introduction, getting to know you kind of a thing. It's just my way of forcing you to learn how we're having office hours this semester. Unfortunately, we can't have face-to-face classes and in-person office hours, and so we're going to have to learn these new tools. And to give you an incentive to figure out how to place a Teams call to me, Microsoft Teams, Homework 0 is due by 2 p.m. on Friday. And so the way that you would see that Homework 0 is, let's see, here we are. Hopefully you can see. Oh, yeah, okay. If we go over here to our home page and under Homework Assignments, it's this Homework 0. And so what you'll do is you'll just place a Teams call to me, And then after the Teams call, you'll type in here, we talked on Monday at 1 p.m. And then you'll just submit over here. And so the way that you do the Teams call is, if you've got Microsoft Teams running, there's so many different ways to start a Teams call, but one of them is to search for me as a contact. I don't know if it'll come up for myself as a contact. Add contact. Wait. I may not be able to add myself as a contact, but what you'll do is you'll add a contact, you'll find me, and so like for example, maybe some of you know Greg Michelson. If you click on the video call, then that's how you would place the call for Dr. Michelson, or in my case, you'll be calling me. All right, so any questions so far?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
All right, so for the Teams call, is that based on phone number? Because I'm not familiar with Microsoft Teams.
If you click on the telephone icon, it would place a phone call. If you click on the camera icon, it'll do a video call. And I'd prefer that you do a video call.
Do we have to have a link to look you up, or is there something else that you provide for that?
No, you don't have to. You can just search by my name, or another way to do that is there's lots of different ways to initiate a Teams call. And so let me show you another one. Is if you click over here on Calendar, and then you click Meet Now, then it'll do the standard thing where it checks your audio and your video, and then you'll type in the name of the person you want to meet now. So there's many different ways to initiate that call. I noticed someone said that they have a PDF of the textbook and that they were offering to post that online. Please don't. That's a copyrighted textbook, and so if you have a PDF of it, you shouldn't share that since it's copyrighted. Are there other questions related to the announcement so far? Okay, oops, not January 24th. Homework number 1 is due, boy, you can tell that I didn't update that. Let me pull up the next thing that we're going to go through, which is the syllabus and schedule. Okay. Syllabus and schedule. All right. Now this is really long, this syllabus, but it's available online and you can print it and add it to that 3-ring binder. We'll just go over a couple of key points here. The office hours that I have this semester are listed in the syllabus. It's Monday noon to 2, Thursday 12:30 to 2:30, and Friday 12 to 2. So those are the times when I'm really going to make an effort to be available and checking Teams to make sure if I have any incoming calls. You know, that you can call me at other times as well. It's just that I may be in a meeting or doing other things and not able to pick up. But during these office hours, odds are very, very good that you will find me. The only exception to that will be if the dean schedules a meeting and, you know, I don't have any control over that. If you aren't able to call me on Teams, there are other ways to get in touch. Here's my phone number. That will ring my office phone. And then also there's email. And I'll do my best to respond to emails that you send me within 24 hours or faster. Some important COVID-19 information that you've probably already heard in a lot of different ways is that you have to have a face covering when you're on campus, inside of a building. You should wash your hands with soap and water. You're obligated, if you are coming onto campus, to participating in the daily screening program that they've set up. And so there's a lot of details related to that. And that thing is so weird when it does that. I'm just trying to separate this. The textbook ISBN, which can sometimes help you find the book, is there if you want to use that to search for the textbook. The next thing that I'll jump down to, you know, there's a lot of boilerplate language in here. that relates to just any course that's applicable. Our course outcomes are listed here along with how each one of them is going to be practiced and assessed. And then the grading scale is something that students are often interested to learn about at the beginning of the semester. And so the homework assignments that you complete are worth 20% of your overall grade. Each of the exams is 20%. The final exam is 25%, and then we have a project that's worth 15%. And please note that I dropped the lowest 2 homework assignment scores when calculating your homework average. And I feel like that's a pretty generous allowance, and the reason why I'm so generous about that is in part because I don't accept any late work whatsoever. If you miss the submission deadline, then just that's the opportunity that is gone and not coming back. If you have a university excused absence, and if you submit the assignment the next meeting after your excused absence ends, then that's accepted. But otherwise, my late work policy is that no late work is accepted. Academic integrity is important to mention this semester. Let me just do something real quick here. All right. So academic integrity. It's okay to talk to your classmates about the problems that you're solving, and it's okay to check your answers on homework with them, but it's not okay to work with another student so closely that you and them are sitting at the same table and solving the same problem at the same time. And the reason that I say that is that inevitably people work at different speeds, and if 2 people are working together and they're solving the problem at the same time, probably what's really happening is that one who naturally works a little more slowly is just mimicking the solution of the person who works more quickly and isn't getting really the same learning experience that they need to. And so I really have a strict policy on academic integrity, and if I found that you've cheated on a homework assignment, then even if you just cheat on one problem, if you copy another student's work on just one problem, or if you find a solution online and you mimic that, even if it's just one problem, it negates the entire assignment. And in fact, what I'll do is I'll give you -1 point for that assignment so that you're worse off than if you just hadn't even submitted the assignment to begin with. Likewise on an exam, even if you just cheat on one problem, one part of one problem on an exam, you'll get a 0 on the entire exam, and I'll report the instances of cheating to the Office of Academic Affairs. So it's really important that this semester everything you turn in for grading is your work and exclusively your work. I don't want to see what you worked on with another student. I want to see what you worked on yourself and what you figured out for the homework. So please review these academic integrity bullet points and let me know if you have any questions, because it's really important. And the incoming homework assignments and exams will be screened, and I generally don't like to think of myself as a sneaky person, but I'll put a few traps in the homework assignments to try and catch people who are cheating. There's a couple of ways for me to identify who's copying off of other students and who's maybe copying off a solution they found online, and so it's just really not worth it. It's always going to hurt you more than it helps you to violate the academic integrity. Please make note of all the rest of these applicable university policies, and what I want to show you now is this course schedule. This is maybe the most important thing I'm going to show you today, because it has a list of each topic. Oh, I can see maybe the class numbers got messed up there. I'm going to have to make an adjustment to that. It should say class number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. But by the day and date for each class meeting that we have, you can see what the topic is going to be, and then also when the homework assignments are due. And so, for example, homework number 1, which is related to interest, is due before our class meeting on Wednesday, September 2nd. And homework number 2 is going to be due before our class meeting on Friday, September 11th. And so In each case, the assignment window will vanish when our class meeting begins on the date that's indicated. And so you can go through this and find out when the midterm exam is, when the project is due, the dates that we have vacations, the date and time of our final exam, and so on. So this is the entire semester at a glance, and I'll update the syllabus so that it has the class numbers in applicable order there. Apologies for the typo. So any questions so far, as we've just kind of skipped over the syllabus pretty quickly and looked at the schedule? Any questions at all?
Yeah. How are we handling the exams?
Great question. The exams are going to be completed at your house. Since this is a virtual course, what I'll do is I'll email the exams to you on the morning of the exam day, and I'll have to look at when everybody's class is scheduled. In the past, what I was able to do was, our class is at 11, and so I gave students from 10 to 11 and from 11 to 12 and from 12 to 1. So there was a 3-hour block to solve the exam, and everyone in my class had at least 2 hours out of that 3 to take the exam. They maybe had one other class during that 3-hour window, so that meant that they had 2 hours during the 3-hour window to solve the exam, and then you would you would upload the PDF of the exam to Blackboard. And so I'm going to show you briefly how we're going to submit all of your homework assignments using Blackboard and a tool called Cam Scanner. But does that answer your question about the exams?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions that you're wondering about so far?
For the teams, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
For the teams, do you want us to have that chat with you privately or with everybody?
No, it'll just be you and me one-on-one. And so when you initiate the voice call, the video call to me, it'll just be the two of us.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for the question. I see that we're up to 41 students, and so I think that's everybody. Good for us, What a group. The interesting thing about this Blackboard Collaborate is I can see when you join, and I can see, for example, if you have connection errors and if it drops and how many times you join during the session, and I can also see when you leave. So, don't skip out early and don't come late, because I will be taking a look at that just to get a sense for, who's engaged and maybe who needs a little bit of encouragement to get to class on time, so to speak. Any other questions before we continue talking about other things related to this semester? So let's see. Let me update that slide that I didn't change earlier. What was the schedule said for homework 1? It is Wednesday, September 2nd. So let me change that now. All right. So you'll be solving most of these homework assignments either on paper or using Excel. You can't give me the physical paper, and so there's got to be some way that you turn that paper into something I can grade. And the easiest way I know of is an app that you can get on your phone called Cam Scanner, and it's really easy to use. It's available for Android or for iPhones, and you basically take a picture of a paper, and then it does lots of really nice image correction and enhancement things, turn it into a black and white PDF, and then you save the PDF in Blackboard. And if we go to our course page, I want to show you where you can see a video Dr. Michelson prepared that shows how to use Cam Scanner. Let's see, it is under Homework Assignments, Cam Scanner. And so if you just click on that, it'll bring up this demo video that Dr. Michelson created that shows how you can use Cam Scanner and upload it to Blackboard as a PDF. And I see Julian mentioned that there's Adobe Scan. It's a free app, so check that out. So you'll, for the exam or for the homework, you're going to have to solve stuff on paper, then turn it into a PDF. And please make it a black and white PDF, because if it's black and white, then that enhances the contrast and the image quality even more, compared to if it's color, then the contrast isn't quite as good. All right, so you can find the, and Kayla says, can you use the scanner on your printer? Yes, you can use a flatbed scanner if you have a batch scanner. However, you can turn your stuff into a PDF, and probably your printer scanner is going to look more clear than an app on the phone, though it may not be as convenient. The phone thing, you can really knock it out pretty fast, but whatever you want to do to create a PDF is fine with me. Now, when we start using Excel, then you'll upload the Excel spreadsheet. You won't make a PDF of the spreadsheet, you'll upload the Excel file itself. And so you'll maybe have some assignments where you're submitting the handwritten stuff as a PDF, and then the stuff that you used Excel for, you'll upload the Excel file. So in those cases, you'll have two files that you're submitting for the assignment. All right, so we've burned up 23 minutes talking about kind of infrastructure and introductory stuff, and now we're going to actually talk about the material. Before we get into interest rates and rates of return, any other questions related to the overview that we've gone through today? And if you do have questions, we can go over it during that Teams chat. Like when me and you have our individual call sometime this week before 2 p.m. on Friday. If you have any other questions or need a clarification, we can take care of it then. Please look over the syllabus before our call, just to see if you have any questions. Then, the syllabus may be the thing that triggers them. All right. So the syllabus and the schedule are online, as are the lecture notes. And so here, if you go to our course page and click on lecture notes, then you'll see that all of the notes for the semester are available in a variety of formats. And so if you want to print it out so that there's 2 slides in a page, you can do it that way. Or if you want to save paper and you don't plan on writing a lot of stuff on top of those notes, you could do 6 notes per page, and then that's how the file is formatted. So you can get those lecture notes printed out and put into your 3-ring binder right off the bat. That should be pretty straightforward. And also, I post my lecture recordings on YouTube. And so if you go to our class page and you click on this link, YouTube lecture videos, then it'll pop open the channel that I have on YouTube, and then you could find all these back videos. Now, what you're seeing right now are videos that I've created in previous semesters. But what you can do is, here in the search window, you can say, like, our class is Engineering 222, so you could do 222 class 8, for example. So if you knew that you wanted to review the class that was spreadsheet functions, then there's Engineering 222 class 8. And how would you know which class number? Well, it's because the schedule that I showed you already has the topics, the class number, the date, and so on. So that's another thing I wanted to mention, is I think that YouTube is probably, the recordings are more convenient to get to than the recordings that are available through Collaborate. So that's why I put them on YouTube. Check the file before you submit it to Blackboard. Make sure that the PDF is clear and in focus and not blurry. Late work isn't accepted, and I dropped the 2 lowest assignments scores of the semester. All right, so why are we doing this semester? I thought you were supposed to be an engineer. We're talking about money all semester. It seems kind of strange. And so why do you have a required course in engineering cost analysis and economy? Well, the reason why is that engineers, regardless of their discipline, whether you're going to be a civil or a mechanical or a biomedical or electrical, you're going to face the situation where you have to compare alternatives and find out which piece of equipment or which program or which vendor is most economical. Engineers are meant to solve problems and find solutions in an economical way. That's actually part of what being an engineer is anybody can build a bridge given enough concrete and steel, but an engineer will build a bridge that is efficient and elegant and minimizes the resources required. And so what we're going to do this semester is we're going to go through skills and learn techniques that would allow you to, for example, compare a small steamroller with a large steamroller and find out, is it worth spending the extra money for that large steamroller? Because you can do maybe a wider area and you can pave more roads more quickly, but then you have to analyze, how well used is it going to be, and will there be idle hours, and how much more costly is it to service and maintain? So the time value of money is a really important thing that engineers have to grapple with all the time. In addition to comparing alternatives, there may be projects that you'll be assigned to where it takes many years to construct or to complete the project. And so you'll have these outlays of cash now, but the revenues won't be until many years in the future. And there's this pesky little thing called interest or inflation. It's two sides of the same coin, where the future money that you're going to be earning is less valuable than the money you spent to build or initiate the project. That's just kind of the similar thing to how your parents probably have talked about how cheap candy bars were back in the olden days, or your grandparents maybe will tell you about how a gallon of gas used to cost 29 cents in their day. Prices are always changing, and usually they're increasing over time. And so because of that, we have to have tools that allow us to correctly account for the true value of money in the future. And so that's part of why we're going through this course, is so that we can compare alternatives and account for the changing value of money over time. ABET is the organization that accredits our engineering degrees, and it's part of what makes your degree valuable is the fact that ABET, the Accreditation Board for Engineering and Technology, that organization has investigated our programs and has given their seal of approval. And so one of the things that ABET requires is that engineers know how to solve problems economically. And so it's not just throwing lots and lots of resources to solve a problem, but it's doing it in an efficient way so that you can preserve the funds for other projects. And if you're working on behalf of a client, you have to solve the project as cheaply as possible to protect the client's interests. And so that's kind of some brief background on why you're in this, essentially an economics course as an engineer, is because we do projects for money, and you have to understand this tool of money in order to do projects efficiently. So this semester I'll spend some time going through a brief lecture each day, but in addition to the lecture, which may include some examples that I solve on the screen for you as a demonstration, a really important part of each class meeting is these in-class exercises that we'll solve together. And so you can think of it as I'll introduce a concept by lecturing about it, and then I'll pause, and I'll stop talking, and you'll begin to work on the in-class exercise that you have, and you can interject with questions about it, and then at the end of the in-class exercise, I'll show the solution up on the screen so that you can see it. I will post the blank in-class exercises in Blackboard so you can print them off in advance, but I won't post the solved in-class exercises. So it's your responsibility to engage with the lecture and write down the solution, and if you need to, you can go back to the video recording and you can see the in-class exercise solution whenever you need through the video. But I don't post the PDF of the solution just because I don't want you to print that off and then just kind of like space out when you're supposed to be working through the in-class exercise. If we were meeting face-to-face, what I do during the in-class exercise is I kind of circulate around the class and I breathe over your shoulder and try and see what you're doing and if it's making sense. And students kind of pair up and work together. I may try and figure out how to do breakout rooms in Collaborate so that you can so-called work together with other students on these in-class exercises. But They're usually pretty short. You know, the in-class exercises are meant to take 15 to 20 minutes or so, and then they build your knowledge so that when you get to the homework assignments, it's not that uncomfortable feeling of just like being completely lost. I remember when I was a student how much I hated it when the professor would just talk for 50 minutes and then I'd go home and open up the homework assignment and I'd have no idea how to do any of it. It's like that lecture completely was unrelated to the homework. So these in-class exercises kind of like tie the two things together. It's a bridge between concepts and application. So it's really important that you do them. Interest is a manifestation of the time value of money. If you're borrowing money from a bank, then you have to give them back more than you originally borrowed. The loan will be for a certain amount and then you repay that amount plus a little more. So if we talk about perspective, then the interest rate is a way of calculating the extra amount you have to pay to the bank as a percentage of the original loan. That's from the perspective of the borrower. We call it interest rate if you're thinking about it from the borrower's perspective. The same formula and the same concepts apply if you are the investor. It's just that we call that the rate of return rather than the interest rate. So it's just a matter of perspective. So if you're loaning money to a company by buying its bonds or purchasing its stock, then the rate of return is when you get back some extra money as a little thank you for the money that the corporation had borrowed initially. So here's some terminology that will be important this semester. Interest is a manifestation of the time value of money. And time value of money is what I was talking about earlier when I said that money in the future is less valuable than money today because inflation is always eroding the value of a dollar. So interest is a fee that you pay to use someone else's money, and the other way to think about it is the difference between how much you borrowed and how much you repay at the end of a loan. And so over time that interest amount is accumulating. So you can calculate how much the interest amount is by how much you owe after the time has passed minus the original amount that was owed, and we call that the principal. If you express the interest as a percentage of the original amount borrowed, which is the principal, then we can calculate interest rate. So here's the formula for interest rate. As a percentage, it is the interest amount per unit of time divided by the original principal amount multiplied by 100. And rate of return is the same formula as interest rate, but remember, it's just a matter of perspective. So if we're talking from the borrower's perspective, we'll talk about the interest rate. If we're talking about the lender's perspective, we'll describe that as the rate of return. Okay, so it's 11:35. We have 15 minutes remaining, and what we're going to do is spend some time looking at the in-class exercise that I emailed you yesterday and that is also posted on our class page. And so if you haven't already, maybe checked your email and saw it there. If you go to the in-class exercises, here you see in-class exercise 1, and it's related to interest on today, the 24th of August. So if you click on that, then hopefully you have access to a printer. If you don't, what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up all of these in-class exercises, hopefully in the next day or two, so that you could go over to, I don't know, there's got to be a copy shop. I think there's a copy shop in Huntington, right? Maybe on 4th Avenue. There's probably some on campus where you can print out the notes, and there's also Office Depot over by Target. Go someplace, print out all the class notes. If you print out the in-class exercises, then even if you don't have your own printer, then you'll be able to write on these. So what I'm going to do, it's going to seem awkward, but I'm going to stop talking for a few minutes and give you a moment to try and calculate. If you borrow, for example, if you borrow $20,000 from a bank that charges 5% interest, then how much do you owe after 1 year? And then of the amount that you owe, what is the interest amount and what is the principal? So this is just applying the concepts that we looked at in these last two slides. And so these equations are the equations that you're going to need to solve the in-class exercise. All right. So I'm going to pause for a moment. I'll pause the recording and I'll stop talking. And what I'd like you to do is solve the problem that is in that in-class exercise paper. I'll bring it back up on screen again. And then after a few minutes, we'll go over the solution together.
When you give us points for questions like this, do you look at us writing out like principal, 200,000, interest, amount, and then just writing everything out?
Right, that's a good question. So the answer is indirectly, and let me explain. Now, first of all, I have to clarify that these in-class exercises, these ones are just for your benefit. So I won't be collecting the in-class exercises, but let's say maybe applying your question to the homework assignments, you know, like how detailed do you need to write things out on the homework? Well, if you set up the concepts like this and you write the words, but then you ended up making a mistake in your calculations, then you can get a lot more partial credit points than if you had just jumped straight into the numbers. And so my suggestion is that you be as thorough and detailed as possible in the written solution, just because that's kind of like insurance, that you're showing not only that you could do the numbers, but you kind of know the underlying theory as well. But strictly speaking, no. Like, I wouldn't deduct points if you failed to write amount owed equals principal plus interest. But I just think it's a good practice to maximize the clarity, because in a lot of ways, these homework assignments and in-class exercises, you're the audience. It's not like me or the homework grader is the audience. It's like you're preparing notes for yourself to refer to as you prepare for the exam, and maybe after the course if you come back and try and, like when you're a practicing engineer and you finally have to use some of this stuff, it may be really to your benefit if you've got really detailed notes. So, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yep, you bet. All right, so 21,000 is question 1. Question 2 is asking what's the rate of return if you invest 200,000 and then you get back 212. So the interest is the difference between the principal and the amount that you're getting back. So 212 minus the 200,000. So your gains, your profit is 12,000, and that profit expressed as a percentage of the original amount, so expressed as a percentage of the principal, then it's 6%. All right. Now, I mentioned that the third one's kind of tricky, and let me show you what I mean by that. We'll go through this one together. Today there is 55,123.45 Icelandic krona in Peter's savings account. ISK is the abbreviation for the currency that they have in Iceland. So the account earns 3% interest. What's the value of Peter's account 1 year ago in AED? And that stands for United Arab Emirates dirhams. That's the currency that they use in Dubai. So what was the value of his account a year ago in dirhams if we're given this exchange rate? Maybe this seems like impossibly complicated today on the first day of class. In 2 or 3 weeks, you'll laugh at how simple this is. You're going to get so good at these exchange rate and interest and all of it that this is going to seem like negligibly easy in a couple of weeks. And so there's a couple of ways to solve this. You can do, first of all, the currency conversion and then the interest calculations, or vice versa. In my case, what I did is I said, all right, if we know how many Icelandic krona Peter has today, let's find out what's the dirhams equivalent of that. So what it says is that you have to spend 35, if you're buying dirhams, you have to spend 35 krona to get a dirham. So although he's got 55,000 krona, that's only 1564 dirhams. So that's the value of the account today in the UAE currency. Now, it would be a mistake if you just said, well, last year it must have been 97% of that. So that's like I've taught this course enough times that I kind of know some of the common mistakes that students make. It's not numerically equivalent to say that last year was 97%. What you actually have to do is you have to divide the amount by 1.03, which isn't the same as multiplying by 0.97. So it turns out that 1 year ago, the initial amount is 1518.24 dirhams. So if we're discounting the amount that he has today by 3%, then that means last year it would have been this. And so if you want to check the solution, what you do is you'd multiply this answer by 1.03, and it gives you the value today in dirhams, and then you multiply that by 35.25, which is the currency conversion, and that gives you the value today in krona. That's a complicated one, right? But hold on to it. Write this down. If you didn't quite get it, work through it again after class. See if you can get it to make sense. The only way that you learn is through practice. And we'll do a little bit of practice together in classes, but you need more practice to be ready for the homework and to be ready for the exams. Just what we go through together won't be sufficient. It'll help, but it won't be enough to really master the material. All right. On the back side of the paper, I asked some questions about this table of interest rates. And this is really, these are more concept questions. And so let's talk through these concepts that are being illustrated together. It's showing different rates for like a savings account, a CD account, and then products that you would use to borrow money, like a mortgage or an auto loan or a credit card. And so the questions are related to what are the different types of accounts in question here. And so the concept question, why is the savings account rate the lowest? Well, the first thing to understand about this table is, in which cases is the bank paying money and when are they receiving money? And so the bank wants to pay you as little as interest as possible. So they're going to try and minimize the savings and CD account amounts because that's where they're paying their depositors. But what they want to have as high as possible is when they're receiving money. And so they'd like to see really high interest rates when they're the ones who are getting the interest. And so a savings and a CD account are products where the depositor is earning interest from the bank. And so what the bank does is they take the money that they get in deposits and then they loan it to other people. So part of the reason why the savings account is the lowest is because they're paying the interest, but it's also because the funds can be withdrawn at any time. A certificate of deposit is like where you are promising the bank that you'll leave the amount in there for a certain period of time. So it could be a year or 2 years. But a CD, a certificate of deposit, is a fixed deposit. The concept having to do with these other products like a mortgage, an auto, and credit card, it's all about risk, why the interest rates are going up. So the reason why a 15-year loan has a lower interest rate than a 30-year loan, you can see that for a 15-year loan it's 3.5 and for a 30-year loan it's 4.29. Over 30 years there's more what's called interest rate risk. It's a greater risk that the interest rates could go up and that would devalue the investment that the bank has made if inflation goes up. And like an auto loan has a higher interest rate because there's more risk than a home loan. With a mortgage, the bank can always take your house and house keeps value. But an auto is losing value the more it's driven, so it's secured with a weaker asset than a home is. And finally, in the case of a credit card rates are so high because they're not secured with any collateral. It's just a personal loan, and the bank can't come repossess your sandwich or the pair of shoes that you bought with a credit card in the same way that they can take back a home or a car. All right, it's 11:50. We are out of time. So just as a quick refresher on what you should be doing, remember that you need to get a binder, print out the notes, get the textbook, call me on Teams so you can get those bonus points, and then homework number 1 will be posted on Blackboard by the end of today. So if you want to get an early start on homework 1, that will be available as well. All right, that's it for now. I will see you on Wednesday. Hope you have a great day. Take care.